So we're back again via video. This gives me at least a bit of a sense of connection with you. I've been reflecting a lot over the last couple weeks about being a priest. And I realized that being a priest doesn't really mean a whole lot without the people. I know I knew that in my head, but I know it now in my heart in a different way. It's always been underlined for me whenever I leave a parish that I've served for years, because it was the connections that made a parish a special place. Without the connections, life's kind of a difficult, lonely journey. I imagine that those of you who are also quarantined alone may have some similar reflections. What's a grandma or grandpa without the grandkids? What are parents without their children? A husband without his wife? Life without the company of friends? So now we find ourselves in the midst of this pandemic at the threshold of Holy Week, the holiest week of the year. Once again, we're going to hear the great story of Jesus, who gave up his life on the cross for the love of the world, for the love of us. It's really a great story. In fact, it is the greatest story of all time. So my reflection is about Holy Week and the cross and how we might see this also in light of the pandemic. I'm grateful to Pastor Mark Crumpler for the inspiration and major part of this reflection. He writes about the difference between giving something up and having it taken away from you, between relinquishing and being robbed, between opening our hands and having our fingers pried open. This is not to say that one is easy and the other is difficult. At the risk of oversimplification, it seems that the difference is what's happening inside of us, what's happening to our souls. To give something up or to relinquish it suggests that we willingly participate in the loss. We do this every Lenten season. We give things up. Sometimes the things we give up are hard, and sometimes the things we give up hurt, but it's still our choice. But to have something taken away from us feels more like a violation, and so we tend to resist it. But if we do not work our way through it, we can often end up carrying a lot of bitterness around. And if we don't pray about it and surrender to it, it may take us many years to get over it. We often see this when a spouse dies. The remaining spouse sometimes never heal. They just cling to the loss, and they often become bitter and lash out at everybody who tries to help them. These days of the coronavirus, we're dealing with both relinquishment and being robbed. There are plenty of things that we've all had to relinquish, our familiar routines. We don't like it, but we yield to it because we understand that the stakes are very high. Gathering on Sunday Mass, for Sunday Mass, this tops it for me. But plenty of people are being robbed. I think particularly of those who've lost jobs and income. It's a very painful thing to yield to. If that's your story, you may not have a choice, and perhaps eventually you make your way to yielding. But that's a hard and difficult journey. My great niece Emily is graduating from UNC Chapel Hill this spring. Her whole family was supposed to be at my house in May for the graduation weekend. She seems to be pretty resigned about it. She is a young woman of prayer, but it's a painful thing for a young person to lose. And many students, your children, and family members are in the same boat. Proms, sports, concerts, plays. It's a lot of loss. Whether we face these days yielding or kicking and screaming, there's something our varied losses have in common, whatever they are. They expose our attachments. They surgically lay bare what we cherish and what we cling to for comfort and security and a sense of who we are. We might also be realizing that some of our attachments weren't all that healthy. Our work-to-home balance in our culture is often not a very healthy thing. When Jesus found Matthew or Levi at his tax booth and invited him to follow me, Matthew got up and left everything in response to that call. It's a very remarkable statement made without commentary or explanation. It's almost an offhanded observation. The same kind of radical relinquishing also marked the call of Peter and Andrew, James and John. Matthew didn't answer the call hesitantly. He walked away from a very financially secure career, and then he threw a dinner party for his former colleagues. But after the party, it was not a walk of glory. Rather, it was a conflict after another. Following Jesus was one problem after another. And we know that ultimately Matthew gave up his life as a martyr in his following of Jesus. He had embraced the cross fully, and Matthew's story reflects his deepest attachment in this world. Everything else paled in comparison to following Christ. So I have a simple question for us to ponder this week. What has our experience and the details of our own life right now revealed about our attachments? What have we had to yield? What's been taken away? One of the biggest things on my mind is the loss of celebrating Holy Week with you. Holy Week is my favorite week of the entire year, and to not have you present is a struggle for me. Like many of us, these days have made me come to grips with some of my own attachments, the things that give me my sense of purpose and well-being. I have to admit they're not all spiritual. While I do miss working at church and with others, I miss Sunday Mass. What I'm also deeply missing is meals with others. I don't like eating alone. I suppose nobody does. I love to cook. The good news is I've lost a few pounds. I love to shop for food. I love to plan the meals. I like going to somebody's house for dinner. We're so used to getting everything we want at the grocery store. We've always had such an abundance of everything. Did we ever think we'd be negotiating for toilet paper? I'm grieving our financial situation at the church. We were sitting pretty thanks to your generosity and getting a lot of projects accomplished thanks to you. But I'm watching it dwindle week by week. Please do what you can. Don't do any more than you can. Be generous, but be reasonable. God asks no more than that. You have to take care of your family, but we also want to take care of our church family and home too. So I think it's important for us, especially as we enter this Holy Week, to name our losses, our crosses, to grieve what needs to be grieved. I don't think we should pretend that everything is just fine. But we also need to pray to become the kind of people who could leave everything like Matthew did, and to know and serve the one from whom all blessings flow. Thank you for listening. I pray that you have a blessed Holy Week. I hope to be virtually with you for the Triduum, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and the Easter Vigil. Thank you.